Chapter 1. Family Betrayal. I sat at my desk, staring at the glowing screen in front of me. My mind raced as I processed the evidence in front of me. Evidence that my own family had been plotting against me all along. For years, they had claimed to be my support system, my foundation. But it was all a lie. They had secretly transferred ownership of the family business to an outside company, stealing what was rightfully mine. The weight of betrayal sunk deep in my chest. I had worked so hard for this life, for my independence, and they thought they could just take it from me? But they were wrong. I wasn't going to let them win. My name is Clara Vance, and this is where I fight back. Another successful campaign under my belt. Another client added to my portfolio. My career was soaring. I had everything I ever wanted, except for one thing: family. And the unsettling feeling that no matter what I achieved, I was still not good enough for them. I had left the small town of Santa Barbara a decade ago to build my life in Los Angeles. I was eager to escape the shadow of my mother, Natalie, and my older brother, Jason. They were the driving forces behind the family restaurant, a business they had poured their hearts into for years. And yet, it was always clear that no matter what I did, I was never going to fit into their plans. I had other dreams, big city dreams. But here I was, at 35, still haunted by the absence of their approval. My phone buzzed, pulling me from my thoughts. It was an email from my mother. The subject line read, "Family dinner this Sunday. We miss you." The words seemed casual enough, but I could feel the weight behind them. I knew what this dinner would be about. She had sent countless emails before, always pushing me to come back to the family fold, always insisting that I reconnect with the family values we had grown up with. I sighed and clicked open the message. "Clara, we need to talk. Your brother and I would really appreciate it if you came to dinner on Sunday. It's been too long since you've been home, and we miss having you around. You know how important family is. Please think about it. Love, Mom." I could feel the familiar sense of obligation creeping in. Jason would probably be there too, undoubtedly still criticizing me for not taking a more active role in the family business. But no matter how many times he pointed it out, no matter how many ways he made me feel guilty for my choices, I wasn't going back. I wasn't going to spend my life waiting on tables or managing a restaurant just because they expected it from me. I had bigger plans. But despite myself, I agreed to go. I hadn't seen them in a while, and I had to admit the loneliness I sometimes felt in the city was starting to gnaw at me. So Sunday came, and I found myself sitting at the dinner table in my childhood home, the place where I had grown up but never quite belonged. The house smelt the same, like garlic and herbs, the rich scent of the restaurant that had always overshadowed everything else. My mother was in the kitchen, bustling around as she prepared the meal. Jason sat at the table, scrolling through his phone, barely acknowledging my presence as I walked in. "Clara," he finally said, looking up with a forced smile. "Good to see you. Been a while, huh?" I nodded, feeling the tension in the air immediately. Jason had always been the golden child, the one who stayed behind to help Mom with the restaurant, the one who had the career I was supposed to have. He didn't understand why I wanted something different, why I needed more than the small town life that seemed to entrap everyone else. Mom came in with the food and placed the steaming bowl of pasta in front of me. "It's been too long since we've had a proper family dinner," she said, her voice tinged with a mixture of warmth and something more pressing. "How's work, Clara?" "It's great," I replied, trying to keep my tone light, but I could feel my heart racing. I knew what was coming next: the questions, the guilt, the pressure to come back to the family business. Jason jumped in, as expected. It's not too late to come back to the restaurant. I've been running the place fine on my own, but it would be nice if you could help out. You got the skills, Clara. You could be a real asset to the business. His words stung, not because they weren't true, but because they felt like a constant reminder that I had chosen a different path. I wasn't supposed to be doing what I loved, I was supposed to be helping them. And the fact that I wasn't made me feel small, as if my choices didn't matter. I'm happy where I am, Jason, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm building something for myself. Building something for yourself, he repeated, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Right. I suppose being a marketing director in LA is more important than keeping the family business alive. It cut deeper than I expected. I could feel the heat rise in my cheeks. It was always the same with him. He couldn't understand why I wanted more than the restaurant, more than the small town, more than being tied down to their expectations. Mom, sensing the tension, tried to steer the conversation in another direction. Well, we're proud of you, Clara, but we still need you here with the family. It's important to remember where you come from. I forced a smile, but the words didn't feel like they came from a place of love. It was as if she was reminding me that no matter how successful I became, I was still supposed to fall in line with their plans. After dinner, as I was helping clear the table, I overheard my mother and Jason talking in hushed voices. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was familiar, urgent, secretive. Something about the way they were whispering set off alarms in my head. Later that evening, as I was getting ready to leave, I passed by the kitchen where Jason and my mother were still talking. I hesitated for a moment before I walked back into the room. I didn't want to eavesdrop, but curiosity got the best of me. We need to finalize it soon, Jason was saying. We can't let her find out yet. She'd never agree. I froze. My heart skipped a beat. They were talking about me. I wasn't sure about what, but I could feel my suspicion growing. What were they planning? What deal were they keeping from me? Before I could process it further, I quickly left the house. My mind was racing. My family, my own flesh and blood, had been keeping something from me. I had no idea what it was, but I knew it wasn't good. As I drove back to my apartment, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. My mother and Jason had always made me feel like an outsider, but this felt different. I needed answers, and I was going to find them, no matter the cost. The chapter ends here with Clara leaving the family dinner, still haunted by what she overheard, and the mystery surrounding the financial deal her mother and brother are involved in. The tension is palpable, leaving the door open for Clara to investigate further in the next chapter, but not giving too much away just yet. Chapter 2. Family Secrets. I spent the next few days in the fog of uncertainty. The conversation with Jason and my mother lingered in my mind like a dark cloud. What were they hiding from me? I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right, that they were keeping something from me. Something important. I couldn't afford to sit back and wait for them to reveal it, especially after the tension in that dinner. I had to know the truth. It wasn't like me to snoop around. I was always the independent one, the one who made my own decisions and carved out my own path. But this felt different. This was my family, my flesh and blood. They had always been the ones I could count on, or so I thought. The thought that they might be betraying me sent a chill down my spine. How could I not have seen this before? The morning after the dinner, I found myself at my laptop, fingers hovering over the keyboard, uncertain of where to start. I wasn't a financial expert, but I knew enough about the family business to understand how it worked. My mother's restaurant, or rather the restaurant that had always been our restaurant, had been a symbol of everything we were as a family. It was the glue that held us together. Or at least that's what I had been led to believe. I started small. I pulled up the documents I had from when I used to be more involved in the business. Old tax filings, the business plan my mom had drafted years ago, the last will and testament my father had signed before he passed. Everything I had collected was in a dusty folder under my bed, where I kept all things related to the family. As I started reading through some of the old paperwork, my heart sank. There were discrepancies. The financial statements didn't match up. There were gaps, things that didn't make sense, transactions that seemed out of place. It wasn't much at first, but it was enough to raise a red flag. I couldn't just sit there and wonder. My hands shook as I reached for the phone. I dialed Aiden's number, my old college friend and lawyer, who had helped me with some minor legal matters before. I needed his expertise now more than ever. He answered on the second ring. "Clara, hey, what's up?" "I need your help, Aiden," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's about the family business." "What's going on?" he asked, his tone shifting instantly. Aiden always had that calm, steady voice. It was one of the reasons I always turned to him. "I think something's going on with the restaurant. I don't know what, but I need someone to look over the financials for me. Something doesn't feel right. I think Jason and Mom are hiding something." There was a brief pause. "You think they're stealing from you?" "I don't know yet," I admitted, swallowing hard. "But there are some things I don't understand. Some financial documents don't add up, and I can't shake the feeling that they've been working behind my back." "I can look into it for you. Get the documents together and I'll take a look. We'll figure this out." I felt a small weight lift from my chest. Aiden had always been reliable. If anyone could help me uncover the truth, it was him. That afternoon, I gathered everything I had: bank statements, tax filings, business contracts, even the will my father had left behind before he passed. Everything I had collected was in a dusty folder under my bed, where I kept all things related to the family. As I started reading through some of the old paperwork, my heart sank. There were discrepancies. The financial statements didn't match up. There were gaps, things that didn't make sense, transactions that seemed out of place. It wasn't much at first, but it was enough to raise a red flag. I couldn't just sit there and wonder. My hands shook as I reached for the phone. I dialed Aiden's number, my old college friend and lawyer who had helped me with some minor legal matters before. I needed his expertise now more than ever. He answered on the second ring. "Clara, hey, what's up?" "I need your help," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's about the family business." "What's going on?" he asked, his tone shifting instantly. Aiden always had that calm, steady voice. It was one of the reasons I always turned to him. "I think something's going on with the restaurant. I don't know what, but I need someone to look over the financials for me. Something doesn't feel right. I think Jason and Mom are hiding something." There was a brief pause. "You think they're stealing from you?" "I don't know yet," I admitted, swallowing hard, "but there are some things I don't understand. Some financial documents don't add up. And I can't shake the feeling that they've been working behind my back." "I can look into it for you. Get the documents together and I'll take a look. We'll figure this out." I felt a small weight lift from my chest. Aiden had always been reliable. If anyone could help me uncover the truth, it was him. That afternoon, I gathered everything I had: bank statements, tax filings, business contracts, even the will my father had left behind before he passed. I sent everything over to Aiden, hoping he could find something that would explain the growing sense of betrayal I felt. While waiting for his response, I kept turning everything over in my mind. I thought back to all the little things that had been bothering me lately: Jason's comments at the dinner about my work and how he always pushed me to return to the family business. My mom's insistence that I needed to come back. They had been subtle, but now that I was looking back, I realized how constant the pressure had been. I couldn't help but feel angry, confused, and betrayed. I had built a life for myself, one that didn't revolve around the family restaurant. And yet it seemed like they had never stopped wanting me to be a part of it, even when I was clear about my desires. What made this worse is that I had always been the one to support them, to take care of things when they needed me. But now it felt like they had been keeping secrets from me. I didn't know how to process that. Later that evening, Aiden called me back. His voice was tight, more serious than I had expected. "Clara, you were right. I found something." I felt a chill run down my spine. "What did you find?" "I looked through the financials, and there's a contract here, dated just last month. Your mother and Jason transferred the restaurant's ownership to an outside company. They didn't tell you, did they?" I could feel my stomach drop. No, they didn't. It's a done deal, Clara. They've officially taken the restaurant out of your hands. It's all in their name now, and there's nothing you can do about it unless you challenge it legally. I sat there in stunned silence, trying to make sense of what I was hearing. My family, the people I had trusted the most, had cut me out. They had taken everything I thought was mine, without even telling me. I could hear Aiden's voice on the other end, but I couldn't focus on his words. I was too overwhelmed, too hurt. I don't know what to do," I said, my voice shaking. "You need to act fast," Aiden replied. "You have legal options, but you need to move quickly before they finalize everything. You can challenge the transfer, but it will be a fight." I didn't answer right away. The shock was still settling. All these years, I had believed my family was solid, that we were united. And now, in one fell swoop, it had all fallen apart. They had worked behind my back, and I had no idea how far this betrayal went. As I sat in the silence of my apartment, I realized something important. I had been wrong. My family wasn't just a source of support for me. They were the ones who had held me back, who never fully believed in my independence. I had to fight back. I wasn't going to let them steal everything from me. This wasn't just about business anymore. It was about who I was and what I had built for myself. I wasn't going to let them win.
Chapter 3. The Plan for Revenge. The weight of the truth settled heavily on me. My family, the people I had trusted the most, had betrayed me in ways I couldn't have imagined. But now it was time to fight back. It was time to take control and make sure they didn't get away with it. Not just for me, but for everything I had worked for. My business, my independence, and the future I was building in Los Angeles. I knew that the revenge I had in mind couldn't be hasty or reckless. It had to be calculated, strategic. I wasn't going to stoop to their level by using violence or petty revenge. I had built my success with my mind, and it was my mind that would be my weapon. Over the next few days, I began to devise a plan. I wasn't going to confront my family head-on, at least not yet. I needed more than just anger to feel my actions. I needed solid evidence and a legal strategy to make sure I could protect what was mine. My marketing firm had been growing steadily for the past few years, but now it felt like I was being attacked on all fronts. I had to secure my business, and that meant I had to watch my back. I spent hours each night combing through financial documents, emails, and contracts. I knew that Jason and my mother weren't the only ones trying to take what belonged to me. Word had gotten out about my success, and there were others who wanted to cash in on it. My competitors were circling, looking for any weakness they could exploit. They were using public slander, trying to tear down my reputation, and they were doing it subtly enough that no one could directly tie it back to them. As if that wasn't enough, things at work were getting worse. My firm had just secured a major client, but some of the staff I had trusted were now acting strangely. There were whispers, rumors, and behind-the-scenes meetings that I wasn't invited to. I couldn't afford to let anyone sabotage my company from within. I sat down one evening with a glass of wine, staring at the paper spread out before me. The names of the people I had once called colleagues, some of them even friends, were now written in bold, ominous letters. There was no escaping the fact that I was in the fight of my life. That's when I remembered Liam Foster, my financial partner. He had always been reliable, or at least I thought he was. We had worked together for years, and I trusted him implicitly. But recently, something had been off. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I had started to notice little things that didn't add up. He was always just a little too eager to get involved in the financial side of the business, always suggesting changes that didn't seem in the best interests of the firm. I pulled out my phone and dialed his number. I needed to speak to him, and I needed to speak to him now. When he answered, his voice was pleasant, but there was an edge to it. "Clara, how's everything going? I've been meaning to reach out to you." "Funny you should mention that," I said, leaning back in my chair. "I've been doing some digging, Liam. I noticed something strange with some of the financial statements. They don't add up, and I know you've been involved in some of those decisions." There was a pause on the other end of the line. I could hear him shifting in his seat, probably trying to figure out how much I knew. "Clara, I think you're overreacting," he said, trying to smooth over the tension in his voice. "The numbers are all there. Everything's in order." "Don't lie to me, Liam," I snapped, my patience wearing thin. "I know there's something going on. You've been making decisions without consulting me. And don't think I haven't noticed you and Jason having some private meetings." He was silent for a moment, and then I heard him exhale sharply. "Look, Clara, I think it's time you knew the truth. Jason and your mother, they've been looking into ways to buy you out of the business." My heart stopped for a second. "What? What do you mean, buy me out?" "They've been looking at ways to take control of your marketing firm," he said, his voice tight. "I didn't want to be involved in it, but they've been pushing hard. They think they can force you into a corner, and they have the connections to make it happen." I could feel the ground slipping beneath me. Jason and my mother had been plotting against me, not just in the restaurant business, but in my own career, my own business. They were trying to take everything I had worked for. "And you knew about this?" I asked, the betrayal stinging my words. I didn't know how to tell you," he said, his voice faltering. "But I think you need to be prepared. Jason is not going to back down." I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. I couldn't let this happen. Not now. Not after everything I had built. I had spent years building my reputation, my firm, and now my own family was trying to tear it all down. "I'm done playing nice," I said, my voice steady but resolute. "I'm going to take action, Liam. I'm going to expose everything." "Clara, you don't know what you're getting into," he warned me, his tone shifting to one of concern. "This is bigger than you think." "I'm well aware of that," I said, cutting him off. "But this ends now. I'll take care of it from here."
I hung up the phone, staring at the screen for a long moment. A part of me wanted to scream, to let out all the anger and frustration that had been building up inside me. But I couldn't afford that. I needed to be smart. This wasn't just about revenge. This was about survival. The next step was clear. I needed to gather evidence, proof of Jason and my mother's plot. I wasn't just going to sit back and let them win. I wasn't going to let my own family destroy what I had worked so hard to build. I spent the next few days working with Aiden, collecting financial documents, contracts, and any other evidence that could back up the claims I had heard. I knew this was going to be a long battle, but I was prepared for it. I had to be. I was no longer the girl who had left Santa Barbara for bigger dreams. I was a woman with a mission, and I wasn't going to let anyone, not even my own family, take that away from me.
Chapter 4. The Truth Reveals. I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection. The woman I saw looking back at me was no longer the uncertain daughter struggling to please her family. No, this woman was different. She was fierce, determined, ready to stand her ground. I had spent too many years trying to live up to their expectations, but that ended today. Today, I would reclaim what was mine. The papers were in my hands, the evidence of my mother and Jason's betrayal. I had everything I needed to expose them. It was time to confront them not just as family, but as the people who had tried to take everything from me, my business, my assets, and my future. The weight of that knowledge settled heavily on my chest, but I wasn't going to let it hold me back. I wasn't afraid anymore. I picked up my phone and dialed Aiden's number. "It's time," I said when he answered. "I'm going in." "Are you sure about this?" Aiden's voice was cautious, but I could hear the concern in it. "Once you confront them, there's no turning back." "I've already made up my mind. I can't sit back anymore. I need to do this." "You've got everything you need, Clara. I'll be here if you need anything," Aiden said, offering his support, but I could tell he knew what was at stake. He'd been with me through the worst of it. After I hung up, I took a deep breath and headed out the door. But drive to my mother's house felt longer than it should have. The city passed by in a blur, but my mind was focused on the upcoming confrontation. Every mile felt like a countdown to the most important moment of my life. When I pulled up to the house, I almost hesitated. It was so familiar. The same house I had grown up in, the same place that held so many memories of my childhood. But those memories didn't matter anymore. I stepped out of the car and walked up to the front door, my heart pounding in my chest. I knocked 3 times before the door creaked open. "Clara," my mother said, her voice strained but composed. "It's good to see you." I didn't respond right away. I just walked past her and into the living room. Jason was sitting on the couch, looking at his phone, completely unaware of the storm about to hit. My mother followed me, her eyes filled with uncertainty. "Clara, what's going on?" she asked, her tone cautious. I took a seat across from them, the papers in my hand, a weight I could no longer ignore. "I know what you've been doing," I said, my voice steady, but my hands trembled slightly as I held up the documents. "I have proof of the transfer of the restaurant. You've been stealing from me, from us." Jason looked up, his face immediately hardening. "What are you talking about?" His voice was sharp, defensive. "I'm talking about everything you've been hiding from me." I slid the papers across the coffee table toward them. "You and Mom signed the contract transferring the restaurant's ownership to an outside company without telling me. You did this behind my back, and now it's all coming to light." There was a moment of silence. My mother's face paled, her eyes flicking between me and the papers. Jason stood up, his hands clenched into fists,
but I could see the panic in his eyes. He wasn't as calm as he pretended to be. "Clara, this isn't what you think," Jason said, trying to sound confident, but his voice wavered. "We'd been handling this business for years. You left. You chose to walk away. We did what we had to do to keep things running." "To keep things running?" I shot back, my voice rising with anger. "You mean to take everything from me? You thought I wouldn't find out? You thought you could just erase me from the family business like I didn't matter?" My mother stepped forward, her face twisted with guilt. "Clara, I didn't want you to find out this way. We were trying to protect you." "Protect me?" I interrupted, standing up. "You were trying to protect yourselves. You've been using me as an excuse to cover up your own greed." Jason stepped toward me, his voice low and menacing. "You have no idea what's been going on, Clara. You don't understand the pressure we've been under to keep this business afloat. It wasn't all about you, Clara." I could feel the anger bubbling up inside me, but I fought it back. I couldn't let him distract me from what I needed to do. "I'm not here to fight with you," I said, taking a deep breath. "I'm here to make sure you don't get away with this." I turned to my mother, my voice softer now. "You've known about this, haven't you? You've been in on it all along." She lowered her gaze, unable to meet my eyes. "Clara, I didn't want this. I didn't want you to have to choose between family and the business. But Jason and I thought it was best for—" "Best for whom?" I interrupted, my frustration boiling over. "Best for you? For both of you? While I was out there building a life for myself, you two were planning how to take everything I had worked for." The weight of the situation was sinking in. I could see the guilt in my mother's eyes, but it didn't change anything. The damage had been done. Jason wasn't about to back down, and neither was I. "This isn't over," I said, my voice cold now, my resolve hardening. "I'm going to make sure everything you've done is exposed. The law will take care of this. You'll have to face the consequences of your actions." Jason stepped back, his fists still clenched at his sides, but he didn't say anything. My mother, on the other hand, reached out to me, her voice barely a whisper. "Clara, please, we didn't want to hurt you." "You already have," I replied, turning on my heel and walking toward the door. As I left their house, the weight of what I'd just done settled in. I had exposed the truth, but it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like a painful step forward in a war I didn't want to fight. The betrayal was real, and I couldn't erase it. I wasn't sure what came next, but I knew this: I wasn't backing down.
Chapter 5. A New Life. I didn't know what to expect when I left my mother's house that day. A part of me still couldn't believe what I had done, what I had uncovered. The betrayal, the lies, the financial schemes that had been hidden from me for so long, all of it had come crashing down in one confrontation. And yet, as I walked away, there was a strange sense of peace settling over me. I wasn't sure if it was because I had done the right thing or because I had finally taken control of my life. It took time to process everything. The shock didn't just fade away, it lingered, but so did something else. A quiet determination, a deep desire to move forward. I had spent too many years living in the shadow of my family's expectations, chasing their approval and always coming up short. But that chapter was closed now. My marketing firm, the business I had built from the ground up, was thriving. More clients were coming in, and the team I had assembled was growing stronger. I poured everything I had into the company, focusing all my energy on making it the success I knew it could be. No longer distracted by family drama, no longer held back by their demands, I was finally able to steer the ship the way I wanted to. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly in control. The office had never felt like home before, but now it did. The space was mine.
My team and I worked late into the nights, strategizing, planning, executing. There was an intensity to it that was both exhausting and exhilarating. But it wasn't just the work that gave me this sense of fulfillment, it was the freedom that came with it. The freedom to be myself, to build my own future, to make decisions that were solely mine to make. I started noticing little things that told me just how far I had come. I no longer cringed when I thought about my family. I didn't feel that tight knot of guilt in my chest when I thought about the restaurant or when my mother's name crossed my mind. It was as if, with each new step I took forward, I was leaving their expectations further behind. But it wasn't just about success in business, it was about something deeper. I found a sense of pride in what I had built, in the person I had become. I wasn't the daughter they had wanted me to be, but I was the woman I was always meant to be. A woman who could stand on her own 2 feet, who could face adversity and come out stronger, who could walk away from the past without looking back. My life had become mine to live, not theirs. One day, as I sat in my office, looking out over the city, I realized how much I had changed. The woman I was when I left Santa Barbara, lost, uncertain, desperate for approval, was gone. In her place was someone who knew her worth, someone who had learned the hard way that success didn't require validation from anyone but yourself. I had finally found my voice. The phone buzzed on my desk, pulling me from my thoughts. It was a message from Aiden. He had been keeping tabs on the legal proceedings, and he had just sent me an update. The fraud charges against my family were moving forward, and the legal action was about to take its course. Jason and my mother were going to face the consequences of their actions. I should have felt satisfied, relieved. I had done the right thing, after all. But as I sat there, looking at the message, I realized I didn't feel what I thought I would. There was no sense of victory, no triumph. It wasn't just about the money or the restaurant or even the legal battle. It was about something I could never get back, the family I had lost. I had won back everything they tried to take from me, but in doing so, I had lost them forever. I wasn't sure if I would ever truly forgive them. The betrayal was too deep and the damage was done. They had chosen their path and I had chosen mine. But even as I thought about that, I knew I wasn't broken by it. I had built something better, something stronger. I had built a life I was proud of, and that was all that mattered now. As the days passed, my business continued to grow, and my confidence in myself grew with it. I had become the woman I had always wanted to be, the woman I had always dreamed of being, and it felt good. It felt right. I wasn't dependent on anyone else's approval anymore. There were still days when I thought about my family, days when I wondered if I could ever make peace with them, days when I questioned whether the fight had been worth it. But then I would remind myself, I had fought for me, not for them. And that made all the difference. Standing at the top of my career, I knew one thing for certain. No one could take this from me. No one could take away the strength I had found in myself. I had reclaimed my power, and that was a victory I could be proud of. As I looked out the window at the city below, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. The world was still out there, full of challenges and obstacles, but I knew I could face them. I had already faced the hardest battle of all, and I had won.